Hi everybody, we are back from our Scottish adventures and I'm back in the craft room once again. Today is Tuesday and we've been home for just about a week. We got home a week ago Monday on the 4th of July and we just kind of have been taking it easy. So I need to have a video ready for you guys for tomorrow and wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do, but I sat down this morning and I've been playing around with a few different things, and so I think we'll just kind of dive in and see where it goes. Now next week my goal is to be able to show you the flip through, and there's still quite a lot to be done in here, but I just don't want to keep dragging this series out. So I didn't really have a clear idea of where I was going with anything today. But since I am on a deadline and I know that you guys want to see something tomorrow and I know that I want to have something ready for tomorrow, we're just going to jump right in today and get started. So go ahead and get yourself comfy and get yourself a snack, a drink, and we will get started right after this. So even though I don't have a real clear picture of exactly what I want to do today, there are a few things that I did have in mind. And the first one is that I want to do a little inking right here. This was a suggestion from Annette. Hey Annette, how are you doing? Annette very kindly sent me a few goodies to play with, to add in to my to this journal and into the things that we're making. So that was really sweet. And I don't remember if I said before that you had sent that. I may have said it and edited it out. I honestly don't remember, but I wanted to say thank you, Annette. That was really kind of you to send some things for the journal and some goodies to play with. But Annette suggested, and I wholeheartedly agree, that these little tags definitely needed a coffee ring. And I happen to have a coffee ring stencil. I thought I had a stamp, but I didn't find one, and maybe I just was eyeballing it and never purchased it. I don't know. But I think the stencil will give us the look we're going for. I am doing this in Distress ink, so if it got wet, it would actually really look, the ink would definitely spread and really look like a coffee ring. So I want to put those on this page for sure. So thanks for the suggestion, Annette. I think you were spot on with that. We'll see how we did. Oh, look at that. And there was another page back here that I thought would also look good with a little coffeeness. Clearly, we are drinking an espresso because look how dark the coffee rings are. But that's okay. I like my coffee a little bit stronger. How about you guys? So yeah, we are back. We've been taking it kind of slow. I don't know if you can hear in my voice or not, but we both came back sick and we both tested positive for COVID after we got back. So I'm not sure at what point we picked that up, honestly. It could have been anywhere, either on the plane even over, or possibly in Glasgow on our busy day. We had a really busy couple of days in Glasgow and we were riding the sightseeing bus and stuff, so that seems reasonable. Or if you go with the 5-day outlook, you know, where, because right now they've kind of shortened it from 14 days to 5 days that you could have contracted COVID, and that would have put us in Inverness, but we weren't doing things that were super busy with a lot of people around in Inverness, so I'm kind of wondering if we picked it up in Glasgow. But we're both fine, honestly. My husband was a little bit sicker than me. He had all the symptoms. I had none of the symptoms. So I was, however, fighting allergies because turns out almost everywhere we were sleeping was giving us, we were sleeping under down-filled duvets, and I'm allergic to feathers, and it took me probably about a week to clue into the fact that everywhere I was going, I was sleeping under feathers, and at one point sleeping on a feather pillow. And typically when I'm around feathers, I develop pneumonia. So I guess we're glad that that didn't happen. But I think that kind of compromised my immune system. So when we got back, Tom tested for COVID. His came out positive, and he said, you should test too. And mine came out positive, but I was kind of surprised because I had 0 symptoms for COVID, but everything for allergy, and I was taking antihistamine to help with everything, and that seemed to fix the problem, but I did not have any of the symptoms that go with COVID, but Tom has had just about every single one of them, so whether I gave it to him or he gave it to me, we don't know, but we're better now. We both tested negative yesterday, so we're able to go out and be among the living. So what I'm doing here is trying to figure out what I had made myself notes and what I wanted to put where, but aside from doing those 2 coffee rings, what I want to do next is work on this pile here that I've been working on this morning because I was just having trouble trying to figure out what I want to put where and what I want it to look like. Now this right here is where I talked to you guys about, I think I'm going to add these 2 pockets, but I need to make smaller ones because as you can see, these are too big. So I've got the paper here to remind me, smaller music paper, and I'll do that later. But there's a lot to get done. Still don't know what I'm going to do with those 2 pages. So let's get started then. And I've gone ahead and kind of fixed these up already. Spent a little bit of time figuring out what I want to have go where, and we'll just go through and put them together, and I can talk to you a little bit about our trip. So our trip, of course, was 2 weeks, and we started out in Edinburgh. Now, I have been posting to Instagram. I put quite a few posts out there along the way, and I purposely made it so that the posts did not line up with where we were at the time that I posted it. So I just kind of purposely posted things a couple days after we had already been there, just because you just never know who's out there in the world, and I just didn't want any strange people to get weird ideas or try to decide to follow us, or you just have to be careful and keep some level of anonymity between you and the masses. So everything I posted a few days late, and the last few I posted after we got back actually. But I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I will have a video up in a couple weeks that talk more about the trip and show you some of the things that I found. I did not find as many things as I was hoping to find, but I did find some good stuff. What I did find was really good. It was very exciting. So that will be in a video 2 weeks from now. So that gives me today to work, and then next week I want to do the flip through of this journal, and then after that will be the trip update and showing you what I found, and more with pictures and video footage and stuff. But so we started off obviously here and flew to first Chicago, and then we had not very long. We only had like about an hour in Chicago, which gave us enough time to get off the plane, maybe find the bathroom, and quickly find what terminal and the gate we were supposed to leave from. So it didn't give us a lot of time. A lot of people flying because we were to fly to Brussels, and that's definitely international. Chicago's international and Brussels is international, but it's also a major departure point for people going to Africa and more of that direction. So Paris, I guess, and Brussels, from what somebody told me, are kind of the 2 main airports if you're traveling to Africa. So we had quite a lot of folks who definitely were African and traveling with us, which is always fun. I just like seeing all the different nationalities and hearing all the languages. And but it was a big 747. We got on, it was 90 some degrees in Chicago. We're getting on that plane at something like 5 or 6 p.m. and it must have been 85 degrees on that stupid airplane. And of course, we were at the back. Well, I was at the back. My husband and my mom, we were all kind of separated. We bought our tickets through Lufthansa, and I'm going to say, don't don't ever buy through Lufthansa. It's been quite an not very positive experience, I'm just going to say. But we had issues with my mom's ticket that they refused to resolve, so we wound up having to buy her an extra ticket just so she could fly. They got her name wrong and they just refused to change it, and it wasn't our error, but we didn't catch it in time, so they're like, too bad, so sad. But because of that, they were filling up spaces on United planes, and so we wound up in all the middle seats, which is not really optimal. But anyways, I was at the back of the plane, 80 some degrees, dying. But we did finally take off, and then once we got to about 30-some thousand feet altitude, then it was a lot colder outside, obviously. So then cold air started blowing through the vents. But man, they were just not blowing any air through there. And then we were about 30 minutes late leaving, and it was stuffy. Plus all the bodies and people who don't believe in deodorant for various reasons. So that was intense. They kind of test you. They're like, do you really want to go where you say you're going? And you have to go through, of course, through security, get on the plane, which surprisingly, here on this end, they didn't really care. They didn't really look in our luggage. They didn't really, I didn't have to pull anything out, not even my devices, not the baggie with all the liquids. I had it all ready to go, and they're like, no, 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 we don't want to see that. Just go, just go. And they scanned it, and that was probably the easiest part. But then when you get to Chicago, well, we just got on the plane, but, you know, it was hot. And then you have, how many hours was it? 9-hour flight, 7-hour flight? I don't remember. Anyway, a very long flight over the ocean, and you know, just testing you, I guess. That's my theory. The airlines test you to make sure you want to get where you want to go. So we finally got to Brussels at about 9 a.m. Brussels time, and that was good. But then we had a 5-hour layover in Brussels, and then it was a 1.5-hour flight on a little rickety plane across the Sound, essentially the English Channel, and over to Edinburgh. So we arrived in Edinburgh around 2:30 p.m. I think there's a 1-hour time difference as well between Brussels and Edinburgh. So anyway, we finally made it. We were super happy. The bumbling Americans, that's us. The next challenge then, of course, was trying to figure out bus and how to find our lodgings. And we stayed in a place that was on the north side of the city, just a little bit north of where the Sir Walter Scott Memorial is. But you're traveling with your suitcase and everything. And so we figured out Tom had already figured out which bus we needed to get from the airport. There's only one airport bus that goes to and from the airport, and then essentially to downtown Edinburgh. And so we basically rode it to the end of the line. We're asking people directions, and we kind of went too far, but we didn't know that until we got off, and then we had to walk back the other way to find our lodgings, carrying our suitcases. So that was a bit of an adventure, but you know, when you go on a trip, you have to expect that things are going to be a little bit awkward and different, and just have a good attitude about it. So we did finally make it to where we were supposed to stay, so that was good. And then went out that night for dinner, and then the next day went tootling around Edinburgh. Now, 10 years ago, we had taken a school tour with my daughter's school to an England and Scotland UK tour. And so part of that tour, we had been in Edinburgh, but we hadn't obviously been back for 10 years. So it was really nice to see the city again, because on that trip, that was the end of our trip, and we were kind of tired and fatigued, and it was a really rainy day. It was just pouring buckets on us. Well, this time we had such beautiful weather, just absolutely gorgeous. Not too hot, not too cold. It was sunny. And I felt like Edinburgh was kind of apologizing to us for treating us so badly the last time, because we were there at essentially the same time of year. So We saw a lot of things, and got to see some things again that just didn't quite sink in the first time. So we did enjoy that because it just kind of cemented the first experience, and we were able to recognize things, you know. So that was kind of fun, to recognize things that we had seen before and then learn a little bit more about them. So we spent that day in Edinburgh, and then the next day, we weren't exactly wiped, but we just decided to take it a little bit slower, because then the next day we were going to meet my brother and his family back out at the airport to pick up our rental car. So we did rent a car because there was going to be a lot of driving, and then that way my brother could sign on the rental agreement as a second driver, and he's of course local, so that helped. And it also helped, he could drive that car for part of the time, and then Tom could kind of learn the ropes again. We did drive last time we were there, but it was different last time because we were driving all through the country, and this time we were driving city and country. So we just needed to kind of remember what all the street signs look like and the speed limit signs, and a lot of the markings are on the road, and then just remembering, you know, what it feels like to drive on the left-hand side. So it was good because then Bill could help Tom drive our car, and then Trisha, my sister-in-law, could drive their car. And so from there we went over to Glasgow, and we spent about 3 days in Glasgow, and they brought my nephews, their 2 boys, and then also my oldest nephew has a girlfriend now. She's just sweet. She's great. She fits right in, and so she came along too. So we spent 3 days in Glasgow touring around, and we got on the sightseeing bus and kind of rode the sightseeing bus a little bit to see what we wanted to see, essentially, and then we could go back around through the loop and get stop at those different sites, and then you catch the bus back again. So you buy a day pass. I am extremely envious of public transportation in the UK, because where I am, we don't really have any. It just stinks. And when you see how well the system works and how efficiently, you know, it just gets people from point A to point B, and it's not that expensive, you know. It just made sense. And you could literally go from one end of the entire country, you know, Great Britain and Scotland. You could go from the south tip down of England, or from like Cornwall or somewhere, and take a bus or a train and get all the way around that entire country and go all the way north without ever needing a car. Really, you don't have to have a car to get around. So busing is everywhere. Sometimes I'd look at the stop and I'm all, okay, so we just stopped a block back there, and now our next stop is a block up the road. Why didn't they just get on and off? I don't know. Why didn't they just combine stops? And why didn't that person just go the extra block but to get off the bus? But anyway, it was fun. And then learning that you have to line up and get ready to get off the darn bus before your stop. So you have to really know your stop. So it was good to have Bill and Trisha with us and the kids, because they're used to that, and we're not, because we do not have efficient transportation in this part of the country. It did kind of make me feel like being back in elementary school, where you have to know which one is your bus so that you catch the right one at your bus stop. So we got to, we had a lot of good fun renting Airbnbs along the way, and we were able then to do cooking for ourselves. We didn't have to eat out a lot, although we did some, and that gave us kind of more of the experience of being in a British home. You know what? I don't have anything to thread through that. Am I going to regret this? It just gave us more of the experience of what it's like to be in a home in Great Britain or Scotland and have that experience versus last time when we were all in hotels, and those are more customized towards the American, towards the tourism trade. So we learned about things like how every outlet has its own switch, and you have to have the switch on before the outlet will work. And if you have an outlet, that has two spots to plug something in, each one has its own little spot, own little switch. And that is because power is more expensive, obviously. And so you just learn to conserve the resources that you have. I think I'm just going to make this a knot. You learn to conserve the resources. So whether it's power or heat or water or what have you, because it's just not as plentiful. I mean, they have limited supply. So that's one way that you conserve the power, is by turning your outlets on and off. So I don't recall us having to be aware of that last time, but we definitely got clued in this time. And then everywhere we went, everybody's shower system was different. So yeah, you kind of learned from house to house how to operate the shower, how to operate the stove. Almost everything had a gas stove. So I am not used to cooking with gas. I don't cook with gas. I never have, really. So that I had to learn a little bit. Not hard, but just something to learn. And then what was the other thing? Everybody had outlet strips by the beds or in the bedrooms, usually somewhere. They do not have outlets in the bathroom. So when you try to do your hair, you don't. You go in there and you shower and you brush your teeth and all that. But if you want to fix your hair, you do it out in the bedroom. But unfortunately, very rarely did they have an outlet anywhere near where it might be convenient to actually do your hair. And then they might or might not have a mirror in the bedroom. So that was a challenge pretty much every place we went. I had to kind of learn. I had to just adapt to each new spot as to where the outlets were located and if there was going to be a mirror and how to just blow dry my hair or use a straightener or whatever. So that was a big learning curve too. But the only outlets that are allowed in the bathrooms are for shavers. And I think that's maybe just because, well, obviously it's so that people don't electrocute themselves in the bathroom. And I'm like, do you have a big problem with that here? But I think it's just because of the limited space. I mean, you do run a greater risk of maybe dropping an electrical appliance into a tub or a sink because there's just not a lot of space. Space is at a premium. So you just get ready in the bedroom. So it took me about 20 to 30 extra minutes every time just to figure out where all my stuff was. And then we spent, I think we spent just the right amount of time in each place, but that meant, every 2 to 3 days we were learning a new place and a new setup for everything. So very fun. If you saw my Instagram, we were able to do laundry in a couple of places. So that was nice. So we weren't sure that we were going to be able to get to do that until we got back to my brother's place where he lives. But we were able to do laundry a couple times while we were out. So I do have a picture on Instagram of the laundry racks, how they can raise and lower them, and they hang out near the ceiling. So you're making use of those high ceilings, 12-foot ceilings or sometimes taller. But then the drying rack is out of the way. And everybody has a washer, but most homes do not have a dryer. However, we did get lucky in a couple of places where we went did have dryers. So that was just a little bonus. And for the most part, homes don't have dishwashers. But these places, every single one of them did. But they're small. They're like half size compared to what you might see in a regular American home. So anyway, lots of adjustments, but it was really fun because definitely we were getting a flavor of real life there and not just there as a tourist, but getting a feel for what it's like to be a resident, you know. So yeah, we spent 3 days in Glasgow. We rode the sightseeing bus, but we also went to a place called, that's not straight. I don't know if that'll come off nicely for me to make it straight, but went to a place called Kelvingrove Museum. And if you are a sciencey person, or if you're not, Kelvin is the guy that, I don't know if he discovered light or how he's a scientist. He's a famous scientist, and he was in Glasgow. And he, if you buy a light bulb today and it tells you how many Kelvin on the box, Kelvin is how warm or cool the light is, the temperature of the light, essentially, not when you touch it, but whether it glows yellow or white. That's the temperature. And so it goes by Kelvins, and that's the guy. So Kelvin was there. They've had a lot of scientific history, basically, people who were scientists and studied there or taught there at the University of Glasgow. Glasgow was founded by Saint Mungus, and now I can't remember his other name, his Gaelic name. But anyway, he's Saint Mungus, and he also, I think, established the university. Don't quote me, but he's the patron saint of Glasgow, as well as being the founder of the city of Glasgow. So established way back in the Middle Ages, a monastery, and then eventually the university was born. It is not the oldest university, I don't believe. I think St. Andrews is older, and I don't remember who is the oldest, but it's neither of them. So we went to Kelvingrove Museum, and I'm going to get all the names wrong because everything, kind of the names kind of all sound alike. They're museum, gallery, art, studio, art, whatever. Anyway, so a lot of the names kind of sound the same, so I may not get them quite right, but I have them documented on my photos, thank goodness. This one, I may go back later and punch a hole. I think I want to punch a grommet. Yeah, eyelet. So what else did we do that day? We took a nice long walk through Kelvingrove Park, so the museum is on, art gallery and museum is on one end, and on the other end of the Kelvingrove Park is the University of Glasgow, and then there's also a cathedral there, so you can see the spire up above the trees. Really pretty. So we spent the morning in the museum / art gallery, and they had some good art in there. They had like Monet's and Picasso and all kinds of well-known artists. They had a little art exhibit, which was really neat to see because that's really the closest I've ever been to classical art, the originals, you know, in a museum. I've never been to like New York to the art museum there or anything. So that was really, I thought, a nice privilege, a nice thing to be able to do and to see up close. They had Degas, and they had, somebody, I can't think of the name right now. Anyway, they had some really nice pieces. Then we went and had lunch at a food cart, which was Greek. So we had Scottish gyros, essentially, but they're authentic Greek gyros because the family is Greek, and they had this food cart, and it was actually really good stuff. So it tasted like good Greek food. But it was funny because, you know, you got these Greek guys and you're expecting to hear them like more shouting in Greek, and they all have these really thick Scottish accents. So that was kind of fun. Then in the afternoon, where did we go in the afternoon? We got on the sightseeing bus after that, and we saw a good portion of downtown and kind of rode the loop. And then we got out at one point. We had dinner downtown at a place called The Citizen, which was really good. Now see, I didn't get that straight. Even though it looks good up here, this is not straight. Darn it. Really good. And I had a meat pie, which is not something I can readily get here. And so I just wanted to taste an authentic one that was good, and it was. It was delicious and really good chips too. Probably the best fries I've ever had anywhere, truthfully. And that's saying something. So it was just absolutely delicious meal. And then we walked around downtown a little bit after that, and it kind of was alternating between rain and sun and rain and sun. So some of the pictures you see, it's just pouring down rain, and some of them it's nice and sunny, and it all happens within like a 15-minute window. So you just kind of do your thing regardless of what the weather's doing. And so that was where, if you saw on Instagram, we went into an American candy shop. Okay, I wanted to point out here that this one, it says heaven, and I wanted the symbolism of the finger kind of pointing upward toward heaven, because this is a praise and worship journal. So there's a little symbolism happening there. So kind of redirecting focus. And I am using these flashcards that are in my shop. Where'd I put the little doohickey with the name? Here it is. The worship flashcards, they're in my shop. So I have them, these I printed out on paper so I could glue them easily. And then I have another set I printed out on cardstock that I will add in as tags and stuff. So if you're looking for those, go to my shop, linked below in the description box. But you will find them there. Okay, this, I'm supposed to go under here. Luckily, that's just gonna get glued back down. Doggone it. Okay, well, how did I have you? Too much talking and not enough paying attention. Will that work? I might want to tear this down a little bit. There we go. Because I can't slide it in far enough where I had it to start with. Okay, yeah, so then we went home that night and the kids played games and we just kind of took it easy. And then the next day when we got up, we went to a place called the Burrell Collection. And that is a gentleman who did something great for the Crown. What was it? He went and, see, now I'm gonna forget. He figured out a way to rescue a treasure. Oh, it was the needle. It was Cleopatra's needle, which is on display down in London, but it had been given to England, and on the way it got shipwrecked. And they were trying to figure out how to recover it because it was going to be a huge insult to the Egyptian government and people, and then they were going to demand it back or demand payment or whatever. So this guy, whose name I can't remember, Burrell, it's his last name, he figured out how to get the treasure and how to rescue it when nobody else could. So he was rewarded with an estate and land and money, because prior to that he was just a regular engineer. And what he did was he began to tour the world and just assemble fine pieces of art and sculpture. And the man did have good taste, I have to say. When you look at the collection, you don't have to be an expert to realize that you're looking at high quality art. And he collected Asian, like, pottery and dishes, and he collected tapestries, he collected sculptures, he collected things from the ancient Middle East, he collected paintings, and sometimes he collected them before the person was well known, but he just collected it because he liked it, and then later that person would get some notoriety and then his collection went up in value. He collected fine furniture, games, knickknacks, basically everything that he had. He was very particular about picking it out. And so when you go through the collection, it is amazing. It is just beautiful, and you really gain an appreciation for how hard he worked at it. So he was able, you know, after rescuing the needle, Cleopatra's needle, he was able to then live a more leisurely, independent life. I don't know if he kept up with his engineering or not. I mean, you would think, because he had kind of a very, you could tell he had a very organized mind, and he organized things in a way that made sense to him. But my brother didn't like it as he was going through. He's like, this makes no sense. And I'm like, well, it doesn't have to make sense to you. It just has to make sense to Mr. Burrell, Sir Burrell. It's like, I don't like it. I'm like, well, we like it because sometimes it was arranged by color or by theme, but it wasn't necessarily arranged. I think Bill wanted it more arranged historically, in historical order. And I was like, yeah, but then it kind of feels kind of helter-skelter, you know? It doesn't, this way it feels like in each room the pieces flow together and fit together. So we had a little artistic difference on that one. But it's okay. You don't have to like the way he does it. You just have to appreciate it. So then we got back on the sightseeing bus after we got back and did some more tootling around downtown Glasgow. And it was nice because we ended up taking 2 rounds on the tour bus. And so the information that they gave you the first time kind of sank in the second time. So that was nice. Saw the just everything, the playhouses, the conservatoire is what they call it, acting school essentially. And if any of you are Outlander fans, that is where Sam Heughan was, where he studied acting, as well as David Tennant, if you are a David Tennant fan. And some other people who know him, I've forgotten, but they're very well known. So that was fun. Then we, the next morning, we shipped the kids back to home. They had jobs and things, so they needed to get back. And then we toured north, and we spent the day driving up toward Inverness, and just took our time. And it's about a 6-hour, well, not quite 6-hour. We just ambled. So we went through. We saw Loch Lomond, and we went through this little town called Luss, L-U-S-S, I think. Let me interrupt the story just to tell you that this was a cluster I had, and I revamped it. I took some pieces off, and then I added this Bible sticker and some music to it. And then this is an actual library pocket. It came out of a book, and so I didn't really like how the library card looked in there, and I just made this little tag to go with it. And so this has Standing on the Promises, which, if you'll recall from last week's project, was also the hymn that I had for this guy. And I meant to, at the beginning, give you a better close-up look of this. So when I finished off this tag, I added some stamping back here, some text to give it interest. I wanted him to stand on the cross and then standing on the promises. So that, again, is symbolic of where do we rest our security and our faith. And he's standing on the cross. He's resting on the faith and the assurance of the cross. So that's that. And then when I was making this tag today, I realized this little strip that I tore out was also Standing on the Promises, a scrap from that. So that was kind of fun how that tied together completely accidentally. I'm also going to go back and put in an eyelet/grommet here, but not today. But I wanted you to get you a better look at this, because I had added to this after I went off camera last week. I took another scrap of that hymn and put it here, added some more script, and then I added washi tape. So music washi tape here, and then some darker washi tape there. And this is the back. It's going to get glued down, and then there's the tag. So I did want to point that out. Oh, and then inside, I added some washi tape and stuff here, and then another piece of music washi tape there, and fixed where that was trying to rip with some more washi tape. Washi tape, washi tape. Anyway, so that's how that turned out. I meant to show you that at the beginning. So that'll be nice how these tie in together. So then we went up to Inverness, and we spent a couple of days in Inverness and tootling around Inverness. So we saw on the way up, we saw Loch Lomond, and then we went past Loch Ness. And as we were driving around Loch Ness, we kind of came up upon it out of the mountains, and it had been raining. Well, the sun came out and we had the most beautiful rainbow that followed us for probably 45 minutes as we drove along the Loch Ness. And the rainbow was just there all along on our right-hand side as we drove. And it was just so beautiful. I don't think we got any pictures of it, even though we tried. I'm not thinking that I saw any pictures of it in our group when I went back through the photos, so I don't know what happened there. So that was neat. And then we stopped in at the Loch Ness Center, but it was a Sunday evening and everything had just closed, so we weren't able to go in. But I did want to get some stuff for my son-in-law, but everything was closed. But that was okay, because we went back the next day. But we went on up to Inverness and we were staying in this absolutely amazing home. They were built in the early 1800s, I believe. And I can't remember now what they called them, but it's a very historic, picturesque part of the city. It's called the Circle, I think, or the Crown. Maybe it's called the Crown. And they're just beautiful stone houses. So our apartment essentially was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and little kitchen. That's where we did the laundry. And it was just, I don't know, it was just very luxurious. It made you feel like you were staying in an English manor house. It was so cool. And from there, we could have walked to downtown pretty easily, but we didn't. We drove. And part of that, my mom has a bad knee that makes it hard for her to go up and down stairs. So we were trying to be very conscious of her knee and her walking too much. So we went downtown, and what did we do the first day? Oh, I need to glue on my paisley piece first. What did I just do with it? Do you guys see it? Where's my paisley piece? Oh, he's right here. Okay. Thank you. What did we start by doing? Oh, we went out, actually first we went out to Culloden, to the visitor center, which, if you know anything about Scottish history and the Battle of Culloden, as the Scots, certain Scots that were supporters of Charles Stuart and his father James the Sixth of England is James the First of, no, James the Sixth of Scotland is James the First of England. So it was his son, James the Seventh. And somehow in there, with Queen Elizabeth I and all of that, James the Seventh got booted out or overlooked or something. Anyway, so there was also a big battle during the day, big fight always between whether or not you're a Protestant or Catholic. So James was Catholic, not Protestant, and of course Queen Elizabeth was Protestant, and so somehow or other she got she got the spot, she got the gig. This is bad, me trying to tell you English and Scottish history. But James was then pretty much exiled to Italy, and then you hear about Bonnie Prince Charlie, or Prince Charles Stuart, and he is his son, and Charles made it his mission to get his dad's throne back. But Charles had grown up in Italy his whole life and didn't really know anything about being Scottish or Scotland, but he somehow, through his charismatic personality, was able to muster up support among Scottish Catholics that his dad should be given the throne, and they should go down and march down to London and overtake the throne and claim it for his dad. And they actually got really close to doing that. If you hear the story, they had a couple of times where they were really close to victory, and then at the last minute something would go awry. I just put all that in the wrong spot. I wanted to put this up here and put him down here. You guys knew that. You probably watched me do it and said, what the heck? Anyway, so there were a couple of spots there where he did not quite make it. So there's speculation that either he had a spy that was sabotaging it, all of his efforts, or just what. But he came very close. He was going to take over London, But then he changed his mind at the last minute, and it turns out that, now I can't remember what was going on in London, but something was happening. And they had sent all of the men away for this whatever was going on, and had they decided to continue on, they would have actually been able to secure London for Charles Stuart. But instead they turned back and went to Scotland, back home to Scotland, because the weather was cold and yucky and the men were starving, and they decided to go back to Scotland and winter. And then in the spring they had Culloden. They wound up facing the English, or the government troops. How that turned out. Look at that. They ended up facing the government troops at Culloden, and it was a spectacular failure because they were hungry, they were starving, they were half dead basically, and the British troops were very well trained and organized and well fed and quite happy, and so it was a big massacre, and it was basically the end of the Highland way of life, because after that the Duke of Cumberland, I believe, who was in charge of basically getting rid of all the Jacobites off the face of the planet. He was also a distant relative of the throne, so he had kind of an interest in succeeding. And he made lots of rules and laws that basically outlawed everything that had to do with being a Highlander. So speaking Gaelic, wearing tartan, just all the little things, carrying arms, which if you look at the history of that, how that played out, 1747, I believe, shortly thereafter, as the American colonies are being populated and they were, forming their government to be the United States of America, one of the big things about the right to bear arms was because it was so common for private individuals to be denied the right to have any kind of firearms in their home. And so I think that had a big effect. And the Highland, they call it the Highland clearances, because they eradicated anyone and everything that had to do with Highland life. And so, you know what, I think I want to put that little flower on here too. And so I think maybe that had an effect on the founding fathers in the United States, because that is a major part of the Constitution, was the ability to carry firearms and defend yourself and all of that. So, that turned out sort of. Anyway, so there's that one. Let's see where we are. Got about 4 minutes, so we did all the things. Let's see, let's take a minute and figure out where we want to set some of these things in the book. Let's see, so after Culloden, what else did we do? Then the next day we went back down, we saw Urquhart Castle, which is just beautiful. And really beautiful spot, but Urquhart had the unfortunate happenstance that they were loyal to the Protestant king, and so it's a beautiful little castle community. It's on the edge of Loch Ness, and I mean, I fell in love with it. I thought, man, if that was my life back then, it was a really nice life. They were peaceful family, the Grant family. So if your name is Grant and you come from Scotland, that was your legacy, to be part of Urquhart Castle and placed on Loch Ness. I want this to be a flippy floppy, but I also want it to be a pocket. Is that too big? Flippy floppy. That might work. I might have to devise. Oh, I have other stuff. Hello. I don't want that to be a flippy flappy, because that's maybe this. Is this the right color scheme? Sorry, I'm just pulling stuff out over here. I got a lot of things to stuff pockets with and to put on pages. What else I got? Got these 2 journal cards. Well, maybe I don't want a flippy flappy, or maybe I want a different flippy flappy. Anyway, Urquhart Castle, beautiful, but they were overrun by the Jacobites, who were mad because they were supporters of the Protestant king and not the Catholic king, and so they got raided by them, and then after those guys left, then they were raided by the MacDonald clan, who also wanted to wipe them out because apparently the MacDonalds, if you're from Clan MacDonald, I'm sorry, your people were were not very nice. But they would thieve and raid and try to steal from all the other clans. So they, you know, if the MacDonalds had you in their sights, you were kind of toast. And so the MacDonalds came and raided Urquhart Castle, and at that point, the Grant clan said, you know what, we have had enough, and if we're not going to be allowed to keep our castle, and we're going to just keep getting raided by all these people with their own agendas, then if we can't have it, no one can have it, and they blew up the castle. And so it's still derelict. It's not a functioning castle, but man, it is beautiful. So I kind of thought, man, if I had had my druthers back in the day, I would have lived there because it was just so pretty. We did not see Nessie. Bummer. There was a place later on where we wanted to see. I could make this the flippy flappy right here because it's got writing space on the back. Maybe that'll be that. We tried to go and see. There's a place where there's wild dolphins on the East Coast, and at a place called Chanonry Point, and that was also very charming and beautiful, but we didn't see the dolphins and we didn't see Nessie. So feeling a little cheated. Too busy. I could put this pocket though. I made this one today, but I just didn't show you. Oh, and also on that one journal card, remember I told you I wanted a big music note? Well, I pulled some out. I pulled out some stuff for my scrapbooking supplies and found a big music note. So I added some here and I added one to that journal card. Let's see, do I want that there? I think I might. Probably just gonna place these and then go back and glue them. But I want you to see what I'm doing. That was our timer. Where's my little guy? Where'd he go? Little guy. Oh, here he is. I like him. This could be journaling space because it's light enough to write over, but I like that I kind of made him to go with this. I like him. I like him a lot. And we're gonna fix that one. Okay, so I fell in love with Urquhart Castle and toured it, and just a lot to see there. That could have been where we got COVID, frankly. Very crowded there. And it was started out sunny, and then it went to cloudy and rainy, so everybody went into the gift shop, and then it went back to sunny. So, this is a pocket. I said flip up, but what if I don't flip up? This one is kind of tall. It's very tall. You know, I want this to be my flippy flappy. Redo. I'm gonna have you be my flippy flappy there, because I think that makes a better one. And then, I don't know if I'm gonna do a flip up there, but I could do him. You know, this one page where I didn't decorate, I think my thought was that I would just set something on it and it would become the decoration. I think that's what I had in mind for right here. Okay, so and one other important announcement. I interrupt my saga of Scotland to tell you that I have made a decision regarding this journal, and the decision is I'm not going to sell it. And the reason for that is because it has some structural issues. I went through and I had to add washi tape and paper strips and stuff, but it is cracking so badly, and every time I open it, it makes a crackling noise. Oh, look how that bled in. That looks really nice. Very authentic. It's making a bad noise, and so I don't really like it. I don't like the noise that it's making. Let's see, what's I got here? These may not all work. This guy, I think, was too tall. Yeah, bummer. You know what I could do though? I have some blank some blank journal cards that I got a long time ago. You could raise it up for journaling, maybe. Is this the right shade of green? Or is this the right? No. No, it was not. Burgundy. There's a lot of burgundy in this journal, isn't there? I have a lot of options here, so I'm just not 100% sure quite yet where everything's gonna go. I like him, but he doesn't, I don't feel like he stands out enough on that page. And so I think it's gonna end up being this one. Because the contrast of this print and that print, I can always put another little scrap here, maybe. Maybe I'll do that. So it stands out a little bit more here, like this one could. See, it just needs that contrast against paper to paper, print to print. So that'll work. Yeah, so we went to Urquhart Castle, and then we went back into town, and we went to a place called Leakey's. Yeah, Leakey's, and it's a bookshop. It's the one I told you about, and it turns out my brother had been to Inverness and did know about this bookshop because they had been there not too long before, just a few months prior. So that's how he knew about it, and he wanted to go back. So I had hoped to find some old books, or maybe find a spot where books were falling apart, and that I could just, you know, maybe get some bargains on some old books that nobody else would really want. And unfortunately, Leakey's is not that kind of used bookshop. It is a it is definitely meant for collectors and for people seeking old, fine books. So the prices were higher than I would want to pay to take a book apart, but they had some really cool books. So I did not end up getting anything there. And we asked the nice man who runs the place. I had my brother go with me to ask. So like, I'm not really sure how to ask this question. But anyway, essentially we asked if he had anything in the back, like maybe that wasn't sellable condition, but that could be more taken apart or redone. And he essentially said, well, if I find any books like that, I just take them apart for myself. And so I don't really bring them out or have anything like that. And I get that, because what he's finding are more collector type and really nice editions of things. And so they'll have like the pretty plates in them and book pages, and so he will take them out and sell them as packages of, you know, really nice book pages that obviously and rightly should pay more for. So that is not, I said, well, I appreciate you, you know, answering the question. I said, I think the kinds of things that you and I would use old books for differ greatly. So I said, I don't think you and I would be doing the same things with the book pages that you're finding. So, but thank you, you know, for answering my question, because I just didn't know. But, okay, I wanted this definition here, but it's going to still need something up here. But maybe after the journal card goes in, maybe it won't matter. This was my measurements, so I could remember what size journal cards I wanted. Okay, this guy, I may have more stuff than what I can fill it with. Oh, and then I could put him on the cover. That'll work. This is one of those Crafty Irina pockets, which I really love. And I like that it has this library scene here. So I'll end up, oh, so I could clip this one because it has writing space on the back. So that's what I'll do. I'll get a prettier paper clip next time though. And then I could put that one here, which I can do that right now. So I've had it sitting on this book page thing because that's what it came on. Now when I glued it to this on accident. This is what it was sitting on. It was kind of a waxy paper, so I've just left it on there because it's still very sticky. Anyhow, so okay, where did we go after that? Then after Inverness, and I was really getting kind of frantic, not frantic, but just really impatient to find some presents for people, because I had ideas in mind. So I'd struck out on the books, and then I wanted to find us some nice blankies, which I can't show you because Mom brought them home in her suitcase. They're still at her house due to us having COVID and having to lay low for a week. She still got them there, but maybe in 2 weeks when I get to that video, I will show you. I want more ink on that. So I found blankets for us and for my girls, who probably aren't listening to this, so that's a surprise. And then I also was able to find not at Urquhart Castle. I saw at Urquhart Castle something I thought I might get, and then I didn't get it. And then luckily, towards the end of the trip, I was able to find it in another place, so that made me happy. But then we went up to, from Inverness, we went up to Thurso. And Thurso is really far north, and it's where, it's just outside of a place called John O'Groats, which I told you about before. And John O'Groats is where you catch the ferry to go to the Orkney Islands, or one of the main ferries. There's more than one, but it's kind of where all the tourists go to catch the ferry to the Orkney Islands. So we stayed in Thurso a couple of nights and did our Orkney Island tour on the day in between, and that was really impressive. It was not what I thought it was going to be at all, which in a good way, you know. And I was really glad we went, because there's a lot of history, ancient history, as well as modern history that has happened in the Orkney Islands, and they've been at the center of politics. And during World War II, that's where the Royal Navy was housed, particularly mostly submarines, because they were hard to find there. And then from there they could go out and patrol the English Channel and all the way through the Gulf there, you know. And then they put up these sunken ships. They would sink ships so that the German submarines couldn't come in. But one of them did make it through, and he ended up sinking one of the ships, which they had just all these ships and things that they sank and just left them there to make it hard to get in and out between the islands. And then over time, they've built what they call the barriers, which is more like rocks and stone that they have built up and then paved. And so they have highways all the way through all the islands that connect everything. And then you just cross these barriers and go to the next island. So you never really, you feel like you're all on one piece of land. So we got to see what's called Skara Brae, which is 5,000-year-old civilization of ancient peoples that somehow or other wound up in the Orkneys, and they would build their little houses and things out of stone and then cover them with grass and mud and make they just look like part of the hills. But then underneath, kind of like the idea of having bunkers, like in World War I and World War II, where they would dig the bunkers down underground, they had these connections of tunnels and walkways that connected all the little houses underground. But that's how they lived, and then they'd go out and fish. And so really neat. But the settlement had gotten covered over time with sand and silt, because the winds are high intensity winds almost all the time. And he said sometimes they get up to even 130 miles an hour. So, you know, they're constantly battling wind as well as cold. I mean, they're pretty close to the North Pole and Greenland and all of those places that are very cold. I'm going to try to wrap this up quickly because the video is going too long. But, so we went and toured the Orkneys, and then from Thurso, when we went back, it was about a 6-hour drive back down to where my brother lives, and we spent a couple, 3 days there. On the way home, I was starting to feel cruddy, and I was pretty sure it was from the allergies. So when we got back, I ended up spending a whole day in bed. So I missed an entire day of just hanging out in my brother's town where he lives. But then we got to go into St. Andrews. The next day I was feeling better. So we went into St. Andrews. That was Saturday. And got to see some stuff and do some shopping. And I did find some charity shops along the way that I will show you in the video in 2 weeks. And then, did we have lunch out or did we come back? I can't remember. But then we went, we pretty much stayed most of the time in St. Andrews that day. And then we went back and we had dinner at did we have dinner? What did we do? I forgot now. Oh my gosh. What did we do for dinner that night? I forget. Anyway, the next day was Sunday, and I had wanted to go to church with my brother and his family and see their church and just meet who they worship with and who they interact with, and their friends. So we got to go to church on Sunday, and then Sunday my husband started feeling cruddy, so he went out and sat in the car basically. And then we went to lunch in St. Andrews, and we did we do a little more shopping that day? Can't remember if we did it or if we got it all done in St. Andrews on Saturday. And then we had dinner at their house that evening. And then Sunday, oh no, we had dinner at their house on Saturday because that was the roast chicken. And then Sunday, after we hung out for a while, and I decided I wanted to walk around his town where he is, just to see it because I hadn't seen it for 10 years. I just wanted to get a feel for it again. So we had a nice little couple hours walking around the town while they took their Sunday naps, and the kids did whatever the kids were going to do, and my one nephew went to work. So that's what we did. We had some ice cream. They have Scotland's best fish and chips shop where he is, and we did not eat fish and chips. They ate that the Friday night when I was feeling yucky. They all had fish and chips, which is fine because I hate fish. So no problem. Did not feel like I missed out. Or that was Thursday night when we came back. Friday night they had pizza, and that was the day I stayed in bed. So I didn't eat at their house that day either. But anyway, went and tootled around his town and took lots of great pictures and just had a really nice day. And it was really nice because everyone was out with their families. It was just a family day at the beach, and there was some kind of little festival going on, which was neat. And so everybody was just out with their kids and getting ice cream. We got some ice cream, walking along, and just very, very low key, just a regular family Sunday afternoon. And then we drove back to Edinburgh that evening. And actually, I may change this up because that looks better on there. And then we decided to get there so we had time to eat some dinner and have a leisurely evening in our hotel rooms, and then be ready to go to the airport the next day. And while we were there trying to park the car for dinner, they don't have concrete curbs. They have actual stone curbing. And so we got a flat tire. So after we enjoyed our dinner, we dealt with the flat tire on the rental car. That was a whole thing that took about 5 hours. And then the next day we got on the plane and came home. So that's our trip in a nutshell. We really, really enjoyed ourselves, and we had as much fun as we could possibly have, and as much fun as we were hoping to have. So it was definitely, sorry, I'm just still looking at these again. It was just really delightful, and well worth waiting for. We've been waiting for this trip for a really long time, so we were glad we were finally able to see our dream through to the end. So that wraps it up for today, and I hope that you enjoyed today's video, just kind of seeing me work on some more stuff and then placing it. I'm just kind of was going by color, how it looks on the page, and then of course height and stuff. Yeah, so next week I should be ready for the flip through. Got a lot more work to do on it. I had hoped to do some of the edge page decorating and stuff like I wanted to, but that takes a lot of time. I just don't want to extend out yet another week on this because I want to get moving on to some other stuff. And yeah, so I thank you guys for joining me today. It was a lot of fun just kind of filling you in and working on this today and getting back into the groove. It's very nice to do, and I'm wanting to get my scrapbooking up and going because there's a lot to document from this trip and from other trips and stuff like that. So hopefully now I can just settle in and be working in my craft room on a regular basis and get to working on more projects and more uploads by the, like I said, by the end of summer I want to start uploading more. So let's get on to our quote for the day. And this, I haven't read this one yet, I don't think. This is by Alexander Graham Bell. It says, "When one door closes, another opens. But we often look so long and so regretfully upon the closed door that we do not see the one which has opened for us." That's a quote from Alexander Graham Bell. And that closes our session today, folks. I'm going to go ahead and get this all fixed up so you can watch it tomorrow. I hope you guys are having fun working in your craft rooms, that your summers are going well, and just everybody staying happy and healthy and just, you know, living life. I want to go and really enjoy my summer. We came back, today's a balmy, going to be 102 degrees. It was already 92 by the time I started filming here at noon. And yeah, 22% humidity. And yeah, we came back to some intense weather, but it's okay. I just want to enjoy my summer, and, you know, think about this. In 2 months, it's going to already be September, and I don't really want to think about that. So just take it one day at a time, guys, one day at a time. So until next time, I hope you guys will be inspired and do something creative. Please remember to give me a big thumbs up if you like today's video, and share. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. All right, talk to you in the next week's video. Bye-bye.